Doth thou need a website for that there podcast of thine? Well, the short answer is yes, of course you do. What a crazy bloody question. What a crazy question. All right, look, I get it. It's a little bit deeper than that. So let's dive into it today on the Podcast Accelerator, the thrice-weekly show brought to you by me, Mr. Mark Asquith, that British podcast guy, all-round decent chap, occasional ranter, and, of course, CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcasting technology, including podcast websites. My bad. All right, look, I'm going to talk about websites and we build web stuff. Fine. That's all good. Don't worry about it. We also build Productivity, the Podcast Success Academy, and, of course, Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcaster. So we are going to talk about podcast websites in general in a while. The reason for this is something quite interesting because I see more and more hosting companies now doing more around their website. When we came into the podcasting world in 2014 with Podcast Websites, which is our managed WordPress platform, no one was doing websites for podcasters. And then suddenly Blueberry started doing their thing after we started doing ours, and then Libsyn suddenly started doing a little bit more. I know that Libsyn want to kind of do a little bit more with WordPress for podcasters. And, that it's a growth area for a lot of different types of company in podcasting. So outside of the business of websites for podcasters, which I've got a heck of a lot of experience in because, frankly, by the numbers, by the platform, by the quality of it, actually Podcast Websites is the number one WordPress platform in the world for podcasters. That's a fact. But, of course, with Captivate, we offer automated websites for podcasters. So what's the difference? What's the sitch? Do you need a website? What's the best type of website? And that's what I want to get into today, all right? So we're going to do that in just 1 second. But I'm going to give a cheeky little shout out to the team at AWeber, who still power my email marketing. Fantastic people over there. Wondrous crowd. Fantastic people doing wondrous work. So real big fans of those guys. And they just help me to build my email list, to communicate with you, the amazing listener. And they just make my life easier as a podcaster. So please, if you're not doing email marketing or you're not building a relationship via email, then you need to be doing that for your show, all right? Go and check it out, markasquith.com/AWeber. Right, first up, remember the second that you record a smidgen of audio and release it to the world and someone listens to it, you become a brand to that someone. And just like any brand, you need a way to build trust. But is a website the way to do that for a podcaster? Well, look, short answer, of course it bloody is. Honestly, it's crazy to even think that you don't need a website. But like I said in the preamble, it's not so long ago that podcast companies in general were not doing anything when it came to websites. I genuinely think we started this kind of mini movement off. Libsyn didn't have their Libsyn pages before we came along. PowerPress sites, which is the Blueberry thing, that's a WordPress thing for podcasters, I think. And, that wasn't there. That wasn't there until we started doing podcast websites. Of course, PowerPress existed, but that's just feed generation on the back end of a WordPress site. It wasn't actually helping people with their sites. Now, I come from a digital background. I ran a digital and design and web agency for a long time, over a decade. I worked with some of the world's biggest brands on this and some really local businesses on it. And the answer is always the same. Yes, you need a website. Yes, of course, you need to be creating a brand outlet for yourself. But it begs the question, what type of website do I need? Right. So let's get into this, okay? WordPress is a content management system. It allows you to effectively do anything that you like with your website. It's simple, all right? You can put a podcast on it, you can blog on it, you can put various different pages on it, you can add e-commerce, you can add memberships, you can add untold plugins to it. It's this uber scalable, uber flexible site, and it powers over a quarter of the entire web. And if you want to build a brand, if you want to build a scalable brand, then you need, in my opinion, you need to be creating a website on WordPress. But you don't need to start with WordPress. No. If you're podcasting, the only thing you need to do is you need to give people a place to start to subscribe and get to know you and research a little bit more. You need to give Google a way of indexing your podcast. You need a way of just putting yourself online outside of the podcast apps, all right? Captivate, of course, does that. We include automated, fully fledged podcast websites that they look fantastic. They work on every kind of device with every podcast that we host on Captivate. We just include that for free. And it's great. It's an amazing site for your podcast. But it's different to a WordPress site. And a WordPress site, like I said, is very scalable. It's highly personalized. It's very, very customizable. But it can be too much too soon for a lot of people. Okay, it's great if you know what you want to do and you want to build that brand and you want to come out of the gates launching a brand along with your podcast. But if you just want to tinker with it, like we do for the Star Wars show, Spark of Rebellion, go and check it out. Search for Spark of Rebellion podcast. Look at the website. That's a Captivate automated site. We configured it in about 30 seconds using Captivate, and then that was it. We don't barely do too much to that. Look at my site, markasquith.com. That's on WordPress using podcast websites. I do a lot more with that. Same outlet, same kind of purpose, illustrate what I do, but it's a fully fledged website that does a lot more. So it's a lot more than just a podcast directory site. And this is the thing that you've got to consider. The short answer is yes, of course you need a website for your podcast. People are going to Google you. People get inquisitive. People get curious. The second that you say, I'm not going to give you anywhere to go and look me up, that's the second that you start to lose people, all right? And obviously you can't be doing that. You don't want to be doing that kind of thing. So you've got to be really careful about this. Launch with intent. But that's not to say that you need to put a lot of work into this. If you're with a good podcast host, like a Captivate, of course, you're going to get a website, hopefully, that looks decent for free from your host. Captivates are fantastic looking. But the thing is, you've got to understand that you are a brand and you need a podcast website. Now, I've seen a lot of hosting companies. I saw Libsyn recently do a webinar on websites. What's the heritage? This sounds like I'm bashing Libsyn. I'm not. But how can you give advice on websites when you've really only hobbied at it? You've not really... you don't really build websites. Me and my team, we've got a lot of heritage with doing this. We've built websites for some of the biggest brands in the world. I reckon we've built 5,000 websites over the last decade or two. And, there are certain things that people do wrong. And, you've got to, if you're going to dig in and you're going to listen to someone and you're going to dive into this, take the advice that is pertinent now and make sure that whoever you're listening to has done this. You wouldn't get a builder around to your house that had quite literally only seen other people building houses or had maybe knocked together a little wall. You want someone that's built an actual fully fledged house. And the thing with this is, what you got to understand is that websites are never finished, and websites they're always evolving. They're always doing more. Okay, they're always going to develop and change and iterate. Like my website is never finished. markasquith.com, never finished. Rebel Base Media site, never finished. Captivate site, never finished, because we're always optimizing it, we're changing it. Okay, and you've got to move with that, and you've got to realize that is what you'll need to do. So start with something that gives you something simple and quick and easy that looks fantastic and does the job, like a site through your podcast host, like a Captivate. And then, when you're ready, you move up. Okay, or if you've actually already got a WordPress site, start with something like podcast websites, migrate it in, do something with that. If you know that you actually, we get a lot of podcasters coming to us wanting to launch a brand. They're not just launching a podcast, they're actually launching a brand with a little bit of coaching involved in there. Or maybe they're going to do some membership stuff, or they're going to get some lead magnets, they're going to start to sell some courses. The WordPress will do the job for that. That is what you need WordPress for. So it's finding the right tool for the job. All right. It's not just saying, these are the 3 things that you need to do to create a simple podcast website. No, it's finding the right tools for the job. We actually used to do a webinar, which are 5 big mistakes that podcasters make on their website every day. I might revamp that webinar. I might just revamp that and get that out there. And I might just do that for you guys because I think it's a damn good webinar. I used to get some really good feedback on that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to revamp it. Why not? Just made a decision. Exec decision. Chief Executive Officer of my own bedroom. That's me. I've made an exec decision. So yeah, of course you need a website. All right. Yes, you do. But use the right tool for the job at the right time. All right. To get started, your hosting company's probably got a decent website built in. All right. Some hosting companies don't. Some are a little bit shonk. Some are great. All right. Check your own provider. Okay. But if you want to do more, you do need a WordPress platform like a podcastwebsites.com, or at least someone else to help you with your WordPress. All right. That's the progression. Okay, there's a reason that WordPress powers that much of the web, okay? And there's a reason that experts exist to help you with that. So just use the right tool for the job. That's all I'm saying, all right? So thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. I love talking about this sort of stuff. I don't talk as much about web as I used to do. Like I said, my heritage is in web. Like I said, I've probably built over 5,000 websites in my time. And each one of them has got its own intricacies and nuances, and we've built sites for massive companies and tiny companies, for individuals and for conglomerates, and for we've built any type of website that you can think of. I'm pretty sure that we've seen it or done it. And it is something that I don't talk about that much anymore because I'm fully in podcasting. But the web plays an important part, and websites in particular play an important part in the podcaster's journey. So I'm going to do a little bit more content on that because it's where I came from. So thanks for joining me. Tell your friends who you think would benefit from this, that this show exists. I appreciate you doing that. And of course, look, if you need a hand, hit me up at Mr. Asquith on the old Twitter. And until next time, check out Captivate.fm for your hosting needs and a kick-ass website. And until that next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.